Before we get right on to talk about the specs, give us a little context about this product and how it fits into the broader ecosystem at Fujifilm.
We're really excited about this product representing our official step into modern digital filmmaking. This is, in all of our history, we've been around 91 years. This is our first ever purpose-built camera for digital filmmaking. It's the FUJIFILM GFX ETERNA 55. All of our previous cameras have been either stills or hybrid as far as digital cameras. So, this camera utilizing the GFX 102 sensor and processor, to us is really exciting about stepping officially into digital filmmaking, which starts a whole new chapter for us.
So tell us about the camera, what's included.
Right away, one of them is the GFX sensor. This sensor features the tallest digital cinematography sensor available on the market for filmmakers to purchase. So that accessibility to that format right away is something that sets us apart. The color within this camera is embraced by Fujifilm legacy. We take color very seriously, as we have since our founding in 1934. And all the things that we've learned about color and filmmaking and how it applies to storytelling, we've injected into this camera and in the form of the film simulations you have internal, as well as 3D film simulation LUTs that we'll have available for download. F-Log2C gives you great range as far as your color reproduction. The internal variable electronic ND is really great. So when it slides in, it starts at a 0.6, so it starts right away with 2 stops of neutral density. And then you can actually electronically control that all the way up to a 2.1. So you get a full 2 to 7 range of ND once your filter is engaged. And that will be in 0.015 f-stop increments. So what we consider visually stepless. So you could think as you're going inside, outside, you could rack your ND filter and have that be a seamless exposure. And also along with the camera, we're launching this new GF 32-90 power zoom lens. It is our first ever power zoom GF lens, which we're really excited about. It's a T3.5. It has optical image stabilization within the lens itself. The camera does not have stabilization, that's all in the lens. And this lens is also weather resistant. You get a really accessible lens for the sensor format, full coverage obviously of the GFX sensor format. You get optical image stabilization, and you get the Fujinon optical image quality, which is something that has been really well regarded within the industry across filmmaking and broadcast, right, for decades. So with G-mount on this lens, you will also have the ability to utilize the autofocus function through this camera, which we think is a value proposition that could be more utilized in filmmaking in certain situations. And we think that the G-mount communication protocol here and utilizing lenses like the 32-90 can help unlock that for the situations that call for it.
So tell me, why medium format? And why would that be of importance in the industry?
So we're actually considering this large format, right? Because in the digital filmmaking space, generally speaking, anything larger than Super 35 has now been categorized within the large format space, right? So it started about 10 years ago with this division and full frame, but it's expanded now into what we consider 65 millimeter with things like the Alexa 65 and 265 and the Blackmagic 17K. So as far as that category, we do see this fitting the large format space, in the imager space. And what we think is really exciting about that format is the ability to scale upwards, right? You will have crop sensor modes in this camera. So if you want to work in a Super 35 millimeter space, you can. But if you do want to scale up, to telling a story in the GFX kind of sensor format, you have the ability to do that, which includes not only more width than you would expect out of full frame by about 20%, but also about 30% taller than you would expect. And it's that height that's really unique about this sensor format. The 4:3 native aspect ratio of the full GFX sensor echoes back to 4perf Super 35, which is a legacy format in filmmaking, and one we thought that it would be powerful to get back to in terms of just the flexibility it brings for spherical lenses and for anamorphic. Spherical lenses, you put a spherical lens on this and utilize the full width in 16:9, you'll still get a larger imager than you would in other full frame cameras. But if you do decide to use that height, it could be great to apply vertical crops if you needed to for social media. You want to crop in a little bit more, just more flexibility. Of course, you can use the 1:3 aspect ratio itself spherically, but then if you use anamorphic lenses on the height, that's something that becomes really exciting about this camera, because anamorphic, the more height you give it, the more powerful it becomes as far as the cinematic value it could bring. That's something that as you go wider and you consider anamorphic squeeze and de-squeeze ratios, a 2 times anamorphic de-squeeze ratio on theoretically, let's say a 2:1 native sensor would give you a 4:1 delivery aspect ratio, which isn't really, you'd want to crop, right? In most situations, right? Unless you did want to deliver 4:1. But with a 1:3:3 native aspect ratio and that height, that's where you get an image that, you know, could even more so solidify it within the category of a 65mm format, because you'll have an angle of view and a field of view that does actually kind of come close to the aspirational goal that many filmmakers have of working with, you know, maybe say a 65mm camera, right? So yeah, as far as how this sensor fits in, we think it has the ability to really deliver incredible cinematic images, but also the flexibility to scale down to meet whatever the needs are of a filmmaker's desired format.
So tell us, what are some of the unique features that this camera brings to the table, if you will?
Yeah, so outside of the sensor format and the color, which we've gone over, if we look at the build, you can see there are a number of different things right away, things like the dials down here. So these are pretty unique. These will allow you to control certain channels that are available within the camera. So with a GF lens mounted, you'll see you have F, I, and Z controls. That'll be your focus, iris, and zoom. So you'll have the ability to set what channel you want to control as a filmmaker, and say you're doing a run and gun style configuration here. You can actually control 2 of those parameters. You'll also have the ability to control ND, which naturally leads into one of the other unique points of this camera, is the internal variable electronic ND. That's not new to digital filmmaking cameras. That does exist in others. If we look over at the back of the body here, we can see we have these 2 doors. The bottom one here is for media. So you have your CF Express Type B for your main recording, and you have your SD card for things like proxies, firmware updates, things like that. If we look at the door up top here, pop this open, you can see we have an internal battery. So that utilizes the NPW235 battery, which is the battery that we commonly use with a lot of our other cameras like GFX 102, like XH2S. So that battery is featured here. It will be charged by whatever external source you give the camera, which is a nice aspect of that. So it's in a sense ready as a true failover if external power for whatever reason does go down. So you'll have the ability to hot swap your external power on the camera itself, or if you wanted a super run and gun, style of operation, you could just run it like this. It'll run anywhere from about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what you're doing with the camera. The other thing that we really want to highlight with this camera is that it does have a dual base ISO. So you have 800 and 3200 values, which again is not new to digital filmmaking cameras these days, but it's a feature that's really valuable to filmmakers, just allowing the ability to again select your sensitivity, control your setting, and help filmmakers in how they can mold the light that's available to them. It's not about just going anywhere and shooting anything. It's about having the sensitivity and being able to have control over your noise rendition to really allow you the flexibility to shape your light at the scene as is best suited for for your needs. So included with the camera as well, you'll have this 5-inch LCD monitor. It is an HD LCD monitor. It has a maximum brightness of 2000 nits, so really great for indoor or outdoor. It'll come with a monitor hood as well, so you'll have that for any kind of glare reduction, things like that, to help you focus on the image. You have your dual-sided sub-LCD monitors, which come with all the contextual buttons you would expect of a filmmaking camera, and allow the operator or the assistant to have full menu access, as well as full camera control of your capture settings. You have the ability to lock either side of those menus, so you could do that as well. And the other thing too that we want to highlight, so if we look at the back here and look at our actual input-output connections, we have an SDI output, we have an HDMI output, we have a mic input as well as headphone outs. Those will be 3.5mm jacks. We have a 2.5mm jack here. That'll be our length control for remote record start-stop. We have a timecode connector here. That is a BNC connector. That'll be for timecode in and out. We have a Genlock connector. That'll be for sensor Genlock. We have our DC power input, which is a 1B LEMO for connector locking. We have a USB-C connector, and that will be for external recording to SSD. And we have a LAN connection here, and that'll be for RJ45 LAN connection to local networks. There is also Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capability within the camera. And as far as what the networking unlocks, we are developing a web-based remote camera control app that you'll be able to control the camera with remotely, as long as you're on the same network as the camera. And something else we're really excited about that the camera is going to support is Adobe's Frame.io camera to cloud. So you'll effectively be able to upload your material right away to a central location for your team to work with right away, whether that mean review and approval, whether that mean editorial off of the proxies that you record with the camera. However best suits your workflow, it can really help expedite things, which is really important nowadays.
Let's say, for example, that I'm a filmmaker and I want to take advantage of what the full capability of this camera has to offer. You know, taking advantage of the sensor at its optimum, its best operation in terms of dynamic range. What are some of the features that I will be tapping into, considering all the options that might be available?
Yeah. You know, as a filmmaker, when you're looking at this camera, I think the flexibility is what really jumps off the page. You know, is having that aspect ratio and having, you know, the ability to crop in to choose your format, essentially, which again is not a new topic to this industry, but being that this sensor is unique, it gives you options that don't exist in other digital cine cameras, right? As far as getting the most out of this from a format perspective, you know, if you do go spherical, you'll get an image that is larger than full frame. If you do go with something like 16:9, something like that, but then you can always crop in a Super 35. If you do go open gate and use anamorphic, whether that's, you know, any flavor, what we're seeing that we're really excited about is a lot of different lens companies are developing anamorphic lenses that feature different squeeze ratios. And what that means for this camera is a variety of different delivery aspect ratios, right? So for example, on this format, if you used a 1.5 squeeze lens, this native aspect ratio of 1:3:3 will ultimately de-squeeze to a 2:1 aspect ratio, very flexible format. If you use a 2:1, you'll get a 2:6:6 aspect ratio, which again was what 4-Perf Super 35 de-squeezed to for the longest time. And then you would typically crop it to a 2:3:9 or whatever you'd like to deliver to. If you use a 1.8, you get a 2:4:0:1 right out of the sensor. So as far as like the cinematic quality you get from that puts you into a category that doesn't really exist in the open market of filmmaking right now. It's an intangible that this camera has. So that height, it really packs a lot of cinematic potential as far as how someone can approach it from that point of view.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from filmmakers that have gotten their hands on it?
Filmmakers have loved the color. That's something that jumped out right away. You know, that they've loved the way it looks and the way it renders. So that's been, I think, the immediate feedback we've gotten off of that. And then again, in terms of the sensor format, you know, a lot of folks have spoken about it in terms of portraiture style imagery, having that 4:3 imager, having that height. It brings a different quality, you know, that you don't get when you just go wider on a sensor. So yeah, so that height, that unique format, it's been inspiring a lot of different filmmakers to think a little differently on how they might tell their story. So yeah, those have been, I think, the main two. The other one is that the build has felt really nice for a lot of filmmakers. You know, it is flexible. This handle is optional. You can remove it. You can put a top plate on it. You can do whatever you got to do to make the build match practically what your production is looking like and how your crew would like to work with it.
Great. Price point. Where is that something that we could talk about? Where are we right now in terms of price of a camera, lens?
Yeah. So we can talk about price. So the price of the body is going to be $16,499.95, and the price of the lens is going to be $5,999.95. So yeah, so we're looking at that price point for both of these products, which we think is pretty incredible considering the format you get here. Again, we talk about accessibility of this format, and that's not to say that that's a price that anyone can just shell out. But it is to say, in consideration of the sensor format and what you get out of this imager and the optical quality you get out of this lens, like for what you get, we think that's a really fair price point. It allows you to focus on your technique as a filmmaker and really scale up and tell those stories in a really cinematic format with a lens that is purpose-built for filmmaking, flexibility, and allows you to get the most out of the sensor.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. We're excited to see where it goes and how filmmakers use it. So once again, my name is Daniel Garcia from the studio B&H. We're really excited about this new product from Fujifilm. And tell us what you think in the comments. Thank you.